The night was warm and the air smelled like fried food in the sea. Park Do-yoon walked slowly through the old Gukje market in Busan. His feet were tired. His back hurt. He had spent the last 4 hours saving a small cat that someone had thrown away like garbage. The cat would live. That was enough for today. Do-yoon was 28 years old. He was not tall. He was not handsome in the way movie stars were handsome. He had a soft face and kind eyes and hands that were always gentle. He worked as a veterinarian at a small clinic near the ocean. He did not make much money. He did not own a car. He lived in a tiny rooftop apartment with 3 rescue animals. But he was happy, or at least he was at peace. The market was quiet now. Most shops had closed. Only a few pojangmatcha remained open, their orange tents glowing like small suns in the darkness. Old women sold tteokbokki and fish cakes and soju to tired workers going home. Do-hyun was thinking about his bed when he heard the crash. It came from the narrow alley ahead. Then came shouting, an old woman's voice, angry and scared. Do-hyun ran toward the sound without thinking. This was just how he was. He never thought first. He just moved toward trouble like water moves downhill. What he found made him stop. 3 women stood in the alley. But they were not human women. Their skin was pale blue, almost white, and it glowed softly in the dark. Strange patterns moved across their faces and arms like living tattoos made of light. Their eyes were large and silver, with no white part at all. They were tall and thin and beautiful in a way that felt cold, like looking at perfect ice sculptures. Do-hyun knew what they were. Everyone on Earth knew. They were Valorians. 3 years ago, Earth had learned it was not alone. Ships came from the sky. The galactic community made contact. Humans learned they were just one species among thousands. It was the biggest event in human history. But for most people, life went on as before. Aliens stayed in special zones in big cities. Regular people like Do-hyun never saw them. Until now. On the ground near the Valorians sat an old woman. Do-hyun recognized her. Everyone called her Grandma Bong-sun. She had sold tteokbokki in this market for 40 years. Now her cart was knocked over. Red rice cakes and sauce covered the ground like a small disaster. Grandma Bong-sun was not hurt, but she was very angry. "Look what you did," she shouted at the aliens. "My whole cart! Do you know how long it takes to make this? Do you have eyes in those strange heads?" The 3 Valorians looked confused. They stood very still, their glowing patterns flickering. They did not seem to know what to do. One of them spoke in Galactic Common, but Grandma Bong-sun did not understand that language. She just shouted louder. Do-hyun walked forward. His heart was beating fast. He had never talked to an alien before, but he had talked to many scared and confused creatures in his life. A frightened dog, a sick bird, a dying cat. This did not feel so different. "Grandma," he said gently, kneeling beside her, "are you hurt? Let me help you up." He took her hands and helped her stand. She was still angry, but his calm voice made her quieter. He turned to the Valorians. "Hello," he said in his broken Galactic Common. He had learned a little from the internet. "Accident, yes? Not on purpose?" One of the Valorians stepped forward. She was slightly shorter than the others. Her light patterns were a soft violet color. Her silver eyes studied Do-hyun with intense curiosity. "Correct," she said. Her voice was flat, without emotion. "We did not intend to damage the commerce unit. We were observing the food preparation process." The elderly human moved unexpectedly. Contact occurred. Do-hyun almost smiled. "Commerce unit." She meant the cart. "Okay," he said. "In human culture, when you cause damage by accident, you apologize. You say you are sorry, then you pay for the damage. This shows respect." The Valorian tilted her head. "Apologize. This is an emotional ritual. Valorians do not perform emotional rituals. They serve no logical function." "Maybe not for you," Do-hyun said. "But for her it means everything. She is old. She works hard. Her tteokbokki is her pride. When you say sorry, you tell her that her feelings matter, that she matters." The Valorian stared at him for a long moment. Her 2 companions whispered to each other in their own language. They seemed impatient. They wanted to leave, but the violet-patterned Valorian did not move. She looked at Grandma Bong-sun. Then slowly, stiffly, she bowed her head. "I am sorry," she said. The words sounded strange coming from her, like she was speaking a foreign language. Your commerce, your teokboki, has value. I did not intend to destroy it. Grandma Bongsun blinked. Her anger melted a little. Well, she said, at least you have some manners, even if you are a strange blue person. Doyun smiled. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. He did not have much money, but he had enough. He gave it to Grandma Bongsun. For new ingredients, he said, please make more delicious tteokbokki tomorrow. The old woman looked at the money, then at Do-hyun. Her eyes became soft. You are a good boy, Do-hyun. Your mother raised you well. She patted his cheek, gathered what she could from her ruined cart, and slowly walked away. Do-hyun turned back to the Valorians. She will be fine now. I hope you enjoy your time on Earth. He bowed politely and started to walk away. Wait. The voice came from the violet-patterned Valorian. Do-hyun stopped and turned. She was staring at him with an expression he could not read. Her silver eyes were wide. Her light patterns pulsed faster than before. You gave your resources to the elderly human, she said. You gained nothing. You lost money. This is inefficient, illogical. Why did you do this? Do-hyun thought about the question. No one had ever asked him why he was kind. It was like asking why he breathed. Because she needed help, he said simply, and I could help. That is enough reason. The Valorian stared at him for a long time. Her companions spoke to her urgently in their language. They pulled at her arm, but she did not move. Then she turned to them and spoke. Her voice was calm, but there was something new in it, something that had not been there before. Do-hyun did not understand Valorian language, but somehow he understood her meaning, the way she said it, the way she looked at him when she spoke. She was telling her friends that she was not leaving. Her companions argued. Their light patterns turned red with what might have been anger, but the violet Valorian simply turned her back on them and walked toward Do-hyun. I am called Yira, she said. I will accompany you. Do-hyun blinked. What? I must study you, Yira said. You are illogical, inefficient, irrational. You give away resources to strangers. You care about the feelings of an elderly commerce operator. No species in the galactic community behaves this way. I must understand why. Do-hyun opened his mouth to protest, but Yira was already walking beside him, her soft glow lighting the dark street. Behind them, her companions shouted in Valorian. Then slowly their voices faded. Yira did not look back. And Park Do-hyun, a simple veterinarian who just wanted to go home and sleep, found himself walking through the Busan night with an alien who had just chosen him for reasons he did not understand. It was, he thought, going to be a very strange night. He had no idea how right he was. Do-hyun's apartment was not meant for guests. It was a small rooftop room on top of an old building. The walls were thin. The floor was cold in winter and hot in summer. The bathroom was so small that he could touch both walls at the same time. But it was home, and it was filled with love. Yira stood in the doorway and did not move. Her silver eyes scanned the room like a computer scanning data. Her face showed nothing, but her light patterns flickered quickly, which Do-hyun had started to understand meant confusion. This is your dwelling, she said. It was not a question. Yes, Do-hyun said. He suddenly felt embarrassed. His apartment was messy. There were animal toys on the floor. The couch had scratch marks from claws. It smelled like dog and cat and old books. It is very small, Yira said. I know. It is not clean. I know. There are creatures here. As if on cue, a dog came running from the bedroom. It was a medium-sized dog with brown fur and happy eyes. It had only 3 legs. Its back left leg was missing. But it ran toward Do-hyun with such joy that it seemed like the fastest dog in the world. This is Bori, Do-hyun said, kneeling to pet the dog. Bori's tail wagged so hard his whole body shook. I found him 2 years ago. Someone hit him with a car and left him to die. The leg could not be saved, but he is happy now. Yira stared at the 3-legged dog. It is damaged. Do-hyun corrected gently. He is damaged, but he is not broken. Before Yira could respond, a cat jumped onto the kitchen counter. It was orange and white, with long fur and only one eye. The other eye was just smooth fur where an eye should be. Nabi, Do-hyun said. She was born with one eye. No one wanted to adopt her. The shelter was going to put her to sleep, so I took her. It is also damaged, Yura said. She, Do-hyun corrected again. And yes, she sees the world differently than other cats, but she sees enough. A voice came from the corner of the room. Pretty girl, work hard and eat well. Yura spun around so fast her light patterns flashed white. An old green parrot sat in a cage near the window. It tilted its head and looked at Yura with small black eyes. That is Chamse, Do-hyun said with a small laugh. He is very old. He only speaks in old Korean sayings. I do not know who taught him. I found him in a box outside my clinic 5 years ago. Yura was silent for a long moment. She looked at the three-legged dog, the one-eyed cat, the old parrot. Then she looked at Do-hyun. You collect broken things, she said. Do-hyun thought about this. I collect things that need love, he said. Everything needs love, even broken things. Maybe especially broken things. Yura did not respond. She walked slowly into the apartment, her bare feet making no sound on the old wooden floor. She touched the wall. She looked at the small kitchen. She studied the photographs on the shelf. Pictures of Do-hyun with animals. Pictures of Do-hyun with an old woman who might be his mother. Pictures of Do-hyun smiling. You smile often in these images, she said. I am often happy, Do-hyun said. Why? The question surprised him. Why am I happy? Yes, you have very little. Your dwelling is small. Your resources are limited. You spend your time and money on damaged creatures that give nothing back. By all logical measures, you should be unhappy. Yet you smile. Do-hyun sat down on his old couch. Bori immediately jumped up and put his head on Do-hyun's lap. Nabi jumped up too, settling on the armrest. Shamsai made a happy sound from his cage. I have everything I need, Do-hyun said. I have a home. I have friends. I have work that means something. I help creatures that cannot help themselves. Every day I make a small piece of the world better. What more could I want? Yura stood very still. Her patterns pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. On Valoria, she said quietly, we have everything. Perfect homes, perfect health, perfect efficiency. We live for hundreds of your years. We have technology your species cannot imagine. We have conquered our emotions because emotions are inefficient. They cause pain. They cause mistakes. They cause war. She paused. But we do not smile. Do-hyun looked at her. For the first time, he did not see a cold alien. He saw someone who was lost. Someone who had everything except the one thing that mattered. You can stay here, he said. If you want to study me, that is fine. But I have rules. Yura tilted her head. Rules? You help with the animals. You do not judge them for being damaged. You eat dinner with me. You say good morning and good night. And you try, just try, to understand why I do what I do. Yura considered this for a long moment. These rules are inefficient. Yes, Do-hyun agreed. That is the point. That night, Yura slept on the couch. Valorians did not need much sleep, but she lay there in the darkness, her patterns dim and slow. Bori, for some reason, decided to sleep at her feet. The three-legged dog curled up against her legs and snored softly. Yura did not push him away. In the morning, Do-hyun woke up early, as he always did. He fed the animals first. Then he made breakfast. Simple food, rice, eggs, some vegetables. He made enough for two. Yura watched him from the couch. She had not moved all night. You wake before the sun, she said. The animals are hungry, Do-hyun said. Their hunger does not wait for the sun. He brought her a plate. She looked at it like it was a strange object from another planet, which he supposed it was. Valorians do not eat solid food, she said. We absorb nutrients through our skin from specialized environments. Try it anyway, Do-hyun said. Eating is not just about nutrients. It is about experience, about sharing, about being together. Yura picked up the chopsticks. She held them wrong. Do-hyun gently corrected her grip. His fingers touched her hand, and her patterns flashed briefly. She took a small bite of rice. She chewed slowly. Something changed in her eyes. It was small, very small, but it was there. It has flavor, she said. That is the point, Do-yun said with a smile. They ate together in silence. Bori sat between them, hoping for scraps. Nabi watched from the window. Chumsy said, full stomach, happy heart. Full stomach, happy heart. After breakfast, Do-yun got ready for work. Yura followed him. I will accompany you to your work location, she said. I must observe your behaviors in different contexts. You want to come to the animal clinic? Yes. Do-yun shrugged. Okay, but it might be boring. I just help sick animals. It was not boring, and what Yura saw that day would change her forever. But that is a story for another time. As they walked to the clinic together, Do-yun noticed something. People on the street stared at Yura. They whispered, they pointed. Some looked scared, some looked angry. Aliens were not welcome everywhere in Busan. Yura noticed too. Her patterns dimmed slightly. Do-yun moved closer to her, not touching, but close enough to show something important. They do not know you yet, he said quietly. They are afraid of what they do not know, but fear fades. Understanding grows. Give them time. Yura looked at him. You are not afraid of me. No. Why? Do-yun smiled. Because you are not scary. You are just lost, and I have helped many lost creatures find their way. For a moment, just a moment, Yura's patterns turned a warm golden color. Then they returned to violet. But Do-yun had seen it, and he understood. She was already changing, she just did not know it yet. The animal clinic was small and old. The walls were painted light green, a color that Do-hyun's boss said was calming for the animals. The waiting room had plastic chairs and magazines from 2 years ago. There was a fish tank in the corner with 3 goldfish. Everything smelled like medicine and wet dog. Yura stood in the corner, watching everything with her silver eyes. The other workers stared at her. The patients stared at her. Even the animals stared at her. But Do-hyun acted like it was completely normal to bring an alien to work. This is my friend Yura, he told everyone. She is visiting from very far away. Please be kind to her. No one asked questions. Do-hyun was known for bringing strange things to the clinic. Once he brought a wild bird with a broken wing. Once he brought a turtle he found in the middle of the road. Once he brought a cat that had lived in a garbage dump for 3 years. An alien was just another strange thing. The morning was busy. Dogs and cats and small animals came through the door. Do-hyun was gentle with all of them. He spoke to them in a soft voice. He touched them carefully. He explained everything to the owners in simple words. He never rushed. He never seemed annoyed. Yura took notes in her mind. She had a perfect memory like all Valorians. Every word, every action, every small kindness. She recorded it all. At noon, Do-hyun ate lunch in the small break room. Rice and kimchi and some leftover vegetables. Yura sat across from him but did not eat. She was still thinking about what she had seen. You treat the animals like they are important, she said. They are important, Do-hyun said, but they are just animals. They do not build cities. They do not create art. They do not advance science. In the galactic community, species are ranked by their intelligence and achievements. Animals rank very low. Do-hyun put down his chopsticks. Do you believe that? That some lives are worth more than others? Yura hesitated. This was a strange question. On Valoria, the answer was obvious. Yes, lives had different values. A scientist was worth more than a worker. A healthy person was worth more than a sick person. A useful person was worth more than a useless person. This was logical. This was efficient. This was the way things were. But sitting in this small room, watching this small man eat his simple lunch, the answer did not feel so obvious anymore. I do not know, she admitted. Do-hyun smiled. That is a good answer. Better than a wrong answer. The afternoon brought more patience. But as the day grew late, the mood in the clinic changed. Do-hyun received a phone call. His face became serious. He spoke quietly, then hung up. A family is coming, he told Yura. Their dog is dying. There is nothing I can do to save it, but I can help them say goodbye. Yura did not understand. If the animal cannot be saved, what is the purpose of the visit? It is inefficient to spend resources on a dying creature. Do-hyun looked at her with something in his eyes. Not anger, something deeper. Come with me, he said. Watch, and maybe you will understand. The family arrived 30 minutes later. A mother, a father, two children, a girl about 10 years old and a boy about 7. Between them, they carried an old dog. Its name was Haru. It had white fur and tired eyes and a body that had simply run out of time. Doyun met them at the door. He bowed to the parents. He knelt down to look at the children. Hello, he said gently. You must be Haru's family. I can see how much you love him. The little girl started to cry. The boy held Haru tighter. Doyun led them to a small room in the back. It was different from the other examination rooms. There were soft blankets on the floor, warm lights, pictures of flowers on the walls. A small speaker played gentle music. This is the goodbye room, Dohyun explained. When an animal's time comes, we want them to leave surrounded by love and comfort, not fear. He helped the family sit on the blankets. Haru lay in the middle, breathing slowly. The children pressed close to him, their small hands stroking his fur. Dohyun sat with them. He did not rush. He did not check his watch. He just sat. Can you tell me about Haru? He asked. The mother smiled through her tears. We got him when Suji was born, she said, pointing to the girl. He has been with us for 10 years. He was always there, every morning, waiting at the door, every night, sleeping at the foot of her bed. He likes cheese, the boy said quietly, and he always barks at the mailman. He saved me once, the girl said. I fell in the river when I was little. Haru jumped in and pulled me out. He is a hero. Dohyun nodded. He sounds like a very good dog. The best kind of dog. He explained what would happen. He used simple words. He was honest but gentle. The family cried. Dohyun gave them tissues in time. Then when they were ready, he helped Haru go to sleep forever. It was peaceful. The old dog closed his eyes with his family around him, their hands in his fur, their voices telling him he was loved. He was not afraid. He was not alone. Dohyun stayed with the family for another hour. He answered their questions. He hugged the children when they needed it. He helped them wrap Haru in his favorite blanket. And when they finally left, Dohyun sat alone in the goodbye room. Yira watched from the doorway. She had not moved during the entire process. She had not spoken. She had just watched. Now she saw something she had never seen before. Dohyun was crying. Tears rolled down his cheeks. His shoulders shook. He wiped his eyes with his hands, but more tears came. Yira felt something strange in her chest, a tightness, an ache. She did not understand it. Why do you weep? She asked. You did not know this animal. Dohyun looked up at her. His eyes were red. His face was wet. But he did not look ashamed. I knew him for 2 hours, he said. I knew his name. I knew he liked cheese. I knew he saved a little girl from a river. I knew his family loved him more than anything in the world. He paused. That was enough. That was more than enough. But crying serves no function. It does not bring the animal back. It changes nothing. Dohyun stood up slowly. He walked to Yira and stopped in front of her. He was shorter than her, smaller, weaker in every way that her people measured strength. But in that moment, he seemed like the strongest person she had ever met. Crying is not about function, he said. It is about feeling. When we cry, we honor what we have lost. We say this mattered. This was real. This was love. On Valoria, you have removed your feelings because they are inefficient. But you have also removed your ability to love. And without love, Yira, what is the point of living forever? Yira could not answer. That night, she sat on the rooftop of Dohyun's building. The city lights sparkled below. The stars sparkled above. Bori sat beside her, his warm body pressed against her leg. She did not send a report to her companions that night. She did not know what to say. How could she explain what she had seen? How could she put into words the way that small room had felt? The way Haru's family had loved him? The way Dohyun had cried for a dog he barely knew? For the first time in her life, Yira felt something she could not quantify. She looked at Bori. The three-legged dog looked back at her with simple, trusting eyes. Slowly, carefully, she put her hand on his head. He wagged his tail, and deep inside Yira's chest, something began to crack open. She did not know it yet, but she was starting to feel. She was starting to become human. 2 weeks passed like a dream. Yura learned many things in those 2 weeks. She learned how to cook ramen without burning it. She learned that Nabi the one-eyed cat liked to sleep in the strange places, like inside empty boxes or on top of warm electronics. She learned that Chamsai the parrot would dance if you played old trot music. She learned that Bori would follow her everywhere, even to the bathroom, because three-legged dogs could be very loyal. She also learned about humans. She learned that they were strange creatures. They cried when they were sad and also when they were happy. They laughed at things that were not logically funny. They spent money on things they did not need. They worried about the future and felt sad about the past. They were messy and loud and completely irrational, and they loved. Oh, how they loved. Yura had never seen love before. Valorians did not have a word for it. They had words for partnership, for reproduction, for mutual benefit. But love? That wild, illogical thing that made no sense? That force that made a man cry for a dying dog he had just met? That power that filled Do-Yun's small apartment with warmth despite its cold walls? Yura was beginning to understand it, and it scared her. She was changing. She could feel it. Her light patterns had started to shift in ways they never had before. Sometimes they turned warm gold when Do-Yun smiled at her. Sometimes they turned deep blue when she thought about leaving. Sometimes they flickered rapidly when she felt confused, which was often now. Valorians were not supposed to change. They were perfect, static, eternal. Change was a flaw, a weakness, a disease. But Yura was changing anyway. On the 15th day, they went to the animal shelter together. Do-Yun volunteered there every weekend, helping wash and feed the abandoned animals. Yura had started helping too. She was surprisingly good at it. Her calm presence seemed to soothe the frightened animals. Dogs that barked at everyone would sit quietly when she approached. Cats that hid from humans would come out to sniff her glowing hands. "You have a gift," Do-Hyun said as he watched her calm a terrified puppy. "It is not a gift," Yura said. "I simply project a low-frequency electromagnetic field that—" "It is a gift," Do-Hyun repeated with a smile. "Accept the compliment." Yura's patterns turned pink. She did not know what that meant. They were in the middle of bathing a litter of puppies when the door opened. 2 Valorians walked in. Yura recognized them immediately, Mira and Taylor, her companions from the night market. They looked exactly as they had 2 weeks ago, cold, perfect, beautiful. Their light patterns were sharp white, the color of authority and control. Mira spoke first. Her voice was flat, without emotion, just as a proper Valorian voice should be. "Yura, you have been absent from the observation vessel for 15 planetary rotations. This exceeds acceptable parameters. You must return immediately." Do-Hyun stood up slowly. Soap suds covered his arms. A puppy wiggled in his hands. "Hello," he said politely. "Can I help you?" Tyla looked at him like he was an insect. "This does not concern you, human. Step aside." "Yura is my friend," Do-Hyun said. His voice was calm, but there was something firm in it. "If this concerns her, it concerns me." Mira turned to Yura. "You have been compromised. Your light patterns are unstable. Your reports have ceased. You are exhibiting signs of emotional contamination. If you do not return now, the High Council will be informed." "Emotional contamination?" Do-Hyun asked. "It is a condition," Yura said quietly. "When a Valorian spends too long among emotional species, they sometimes begin to feel. It is considered a disease, a failure. Those who are contaminated are sent to rehabilitation centers until they are cured." "Cured," Do-Hyun repeated. "You mean until they stop feeling?" "Yes." The puppies had stopped playing. They huddled together in the bathing tub, sensing the tension in the room. Even the other animals in the shelter had gone quiet. Taylor stepped forward. "Enough of this. Yura, come with us now." Yura did not move. For the first time in her life, she did not obey. "No," she said. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Mira's patterns flashed red. "What did you say?" "I said no." Yura stood up straight. She was taller than both her companions. She had never noticed before because she had always bent down, always followed, always obeyed. But now she stood at her full height. "I am not sick. I am not contaminated. I am awake." "You are delusional," Tyler said. The human has infected your logic centers. You do not know what you are saying. I know exactly what I am saying. Yura's patterns pulsed with colors that had no name in Valorian language. For the first time in my life, I understand what it means to be alive. On Valoria, we exist, we function, we achieve, but we do not live, we do not love. We do not feel the warmth of another being's presence. We do not cry for dying dogs or laugh at silly jokes or sit on rooftops and look at stars and feel wonder. She looked at Doyon. He was watching her with those kind eyes, that gentle face, those hands that healed broken things. This human showed me what we have lost, she said, what we gave up in our pursuit of perfection. He keeps broken animals not because they are useful, but because they are alive. He cries for strangers. He shares his food with someone he just met. He is everything we Valorians consider weak and illogical, and yet he is the strongest, most complete person I have ever known. Mira and Tala looked at each other. Something passed between them. A decision. Tala moved forward quickly. Her hand reached for Yura's arm, but Do-hyun stepped between them. He was small, weak, human, but he stood in front of Tala like a wall. She is not leaving unless she wants to, he said quietly, and I do not think she wants to. Tala's patterns blazed red. Her hand rose, bioluminescent energy gathering around her fingers. Move, human, or I will move you. Do-hyun did not move. A moment passed, then another. Then something unexpected happened. Bori came through the door. The three-legged dog had somehow escaped from the volunteer area. He hobbled into the room on his three legs, tongue hanging out, tail wagging. He walked straight to Do-hyun and sat on his foot, looking up at the aliens with complete trust. Mira stared at the dog. Something flickered in her silver eyes. Something Yura recognized. Curiosity. And something else. Something deeper. It is damaged, Mira said quietly. Missing a limb. By Valorian standards, it should have been terminated at birth. Do-hyun corrected. His name is Bori. Someone threw him away. I found him and fixed what I could. He runs, he plays, he loves. The missing leg does not define him. Mira kept staring at Bori. Her patterns flickered strangely. We should go, Tala said sharply. The human has clearly infected them both. We will report this to the High Council. She turned and walked out. After a long moment, Mira followed. But at the door, she stopped. She looked back at Yura, at Do-hyun, at the three-legged dog. Why? She asked. Why do you keep broken things? Do-hyun answered softly. Because everyone deserves love, even broken things. Maybe especially broken things. Mira said nothing. But her patterns flickered gold for just a moment before returning to white. Then she was gone. Yura let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. They will report to the High Council, she said. There will be consequences. I know, Do-hyun said. You could be in danger. The Galactic Council does not take kindly to species who interfere with Valorian affairs. I know. Yura looked at him. Why did you stand up for me? You barely know me. We are not even the same species. Do-hyun smiled. That warm, kind, human smile. You needed someone, he said. And I could be that someone. That is enough reason. Yura felt something wet on her face. She touched her cheek. Tears. She was crying. For the first time in her existence, she was crying. And strangely, wonderfully, impossibly, it did not feel like weakness. It felt like freedom. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room Do-hyun had ever seen. It was built inside a space station that floated between Earth and Mars. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top. The walls curved like the inside of an egg, covered with screens showing the faces of dignitaries from 100 different worlds. Do-hyun sat in a small chair in the center of the room. The chair was made for someone much bigger than him. His feet did not touch the floor. He felt like a child called to the principal's office. Except this principal was a council of alien species who had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. The journey here had taken 3 days. The Earth government had sent a ship. They were very nervous. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had no power, no influence, no friends. And now a simple veterinarian from Busan had somehow become involved in an incident with one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Just tell the truth, the Earth ambassador had told Do-hyun before the hearing. Be polite, be humble, and for the sake of humanity, do not make things worse. Do-hyun had nodded, but inside he was not afraid. He did not know why. Perhaps he was too simple to understand the danger. Perhaps he had spent too much time with scared animals to be scared himself. Or perhaps he had learned something important from Yura. That fear was just another feeling, and feelings were not facts. Yura was not allowed in the chamber. She was being held in a separate room while the council decided her fate. The last time Do-hyun had seen her, her patterns had been dim and slow. She was scared. He had wanted to hold her hand, but the guards had not allowed it. It will be okay, he had told her, I promise. She had looked at him with those silver eyes. How can you promise something you cannot control? Because that is what humans do, he had said with a small smile. We make promises and then we fight like hell to keep them. Now he sat alone in the vast chamber, waiting for the hearing to begin. The council speaker was a being from a species called the Vorathi. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and 6 arms. Their voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. This hearing is called to determine the status of the Valorian citizen, designated Yura, the speaker announced. The Valorian delegation claims she has been mentally compromised by extended contact with a human. They request her immediate return to Valoria for rehabilitation. The Valorian delegation sat in a special section to Do-hyun's left. 5 of them, all identical in their cold perfection. Their patterns were bright white, their faces showing nothing. The human-designated Park Do-hyun has been called to testify. The speaker continued, Human, you may speak. Do-hyun stood up. His legs were a little shaky, but his voice was steady. Thank you for letting me speak, he said. He spoke in Korean, and a small device around his neck translated his words into Galactic Common. I am not a diplomat. I am not a scientist. I am just a veterinarian. I take care of sick animals. That is all I know how to do. A murmur went through the chamber. Many species had never seen a human in person before. They leaned forward, curious about this small, soft creature. I met Yura by accident, Do-hyun continued. She and her companions knocked over an old woman's food cart. I helped clean up the mess. That is all. I did not trick her. I did not use any technology or drugs or manipulation. I just helped an old woman pick up her tteokbokki. What is tteokbokki? One of the delegates asked. Rice cakes in spicy sauce, Do-hyun said. It is very delicious. I can give you the recipe if you want. A few beings in the chamber made sounds that might have been laughter. The Valorians did not move. After that night, Yura chose to stay with me, Do-hyun continued. She said she wanted to study me. I said okay. We lived together for 2 weeks. I showed her my life, my work, my animals. You're damaged animals, one of the Valorians interrupted. We have reports that you keep defective creatures. Animals with missing limbs. Animals with sensory impairments. Animals that serve no practical purpose. Yes, Do-hyun said. He did not look ashamed. I keep them because they need someone. Because they deserve love and care, even if they are not perfect. Even if they cannot do useful things. Their lives have value because they are alive. Not because of what they can do for me. The chamber was silent. The Valorian delegate spoke again. His voice was cold. This is exactly the kind of illogical thinking that has contaminated Yura. Humans place irrational value on useless things. They allow emotions to override logic. They are a primitive species that will never advance beyond their current limitations. Maybe, Do-hyun said, or maybe we understand something that advanced species have forgotten. And what is that? Human? Do-hyun took a deep breath. He thought about Yura, about Bori and Nabi and Chamsai, about the dying dog named Haru and the family that loved him, about Grandma Bong-sun and her tteokbokki, about all the broken things he had loved in his life. You asked me what I did to Yura, he said. So let me tell you. I showed her what I show everyone. I showed her that broken things have value, that kindness is not a weakness, that love, real love, is not logical. It does not make sense. You do not love someone because they are useful. You love them because they exist, because they are here, because they need someone, and you can be that someone. He paused. Yura is not sick. She is not contaminated. She is just finally feeling what it means to be alive. And I think that scares her people. Because if emotions are not a weakness, then what else have they been wrong about? If a three-legged dog can be happy, what does that say about their perfect society? If a one-eyed cat can be loved, what does that mean for their ideas about value? The chamber was completely silent now. Every eye, every sensor, every consciousness was focused on the small human in the center of the room. I am not going to apologize for showing Yira kindness, Do-hyun said. I am not going to apologize for treating her like a person instead of a research subject. If that is a crime in your galactic community, then your community is broken. And maybe it needs someone to fix it. The same way I fix broken animals. Not by making them perfect, but by loving them exactly as they are. He sat down. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, one of the delegates began to make a sound. It was a clicking noise, like stones tapping together. Another delegate joined, then another. Soon, a dozen species were making similar sounds. Do-hyun did not understand what was happening. The Earth ambassador leaned over and whispered in his ear. They are applauding, she said. Her voice was shaking. In their different ways, they are applauding you. The Valorian delegation sat frozen. Their patterns flickered with colors Do-hyun had never seen before. Confusion, uncertainty, and something that might have been doubt. The council speaker raised 3 of its 6 arms for silence. This council will deliberate, the speaker announced. The human's testimony has been recorded. A decision will be made within 1 planetary rotation. Do-hyun was led out of the chamber. His legs were weak. His hands were shaking. He had said things he never planned to say. Words had come out of him like water from a broken dam. But as he walked down the long corridor, he saw something that made everything worth it. Yira stood at the end of the hall between 2 guards. Her patterns were no longer dim. They glowed with all the colors of a sunrise, gold and pink and soft purple and warm orange. She was crying, and she was smiling. Do-hyun walked toward her. The guards moved to stop him, but something in his eyes made them hesitate. He took her hand. I told you it would be okay, he said. You made a promise you could not control, she whispered. Yes, he said. That is what humans do. And standing in that cold corridor, on a space station between worlds, a small human and an alien who had learned to feel held hands and waited for the future together. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. The council ruled in Yira's favor. She was free to stay on Earth, free to live with Do-hyun, free to feel whatever she wanted to feel. The Valorian delegation left the hearing in silence. Their patterns were a dull gray color that Yira said meant deep shame. They had been publicly embarrassed. A primitive human had spoken against them, and the galaxy had listened. This would not be forgotten. But the consequences of that hearing went far beyond one Valorian and one human. The hearing had been broadcast across the entire galactic community. Billions of beings had watched a small man from Busan stand in front of the most powerful council in the galaxy and speak about love and broken things. His words had been translated into 10,000 languages. His face had appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds, and something began to change. It started small. On Valoria, a young scientist asked a question that had never been asked before. What if emotions are not a disease? She was immediately sent for evaluation, but her question spread. More Valorians began to whisper. What if they had been wrong? What if their perfect society had a perfect flaw? On other worlds, the effect was even bigger. The galactic community had always ranked species by their achievements: intelligence, technology, military power, economic output. Humans ranked very low on all these measures. They were considered primitive, unimportant, a curiosity at best. But Do-hyun's words made beings think differently. A philosopher on a world called Penthos wrote an essay called The Broken Things Doctrine. It argued that human concepts like compassion, sacrifice, and unconditional love were not primitive at all. They were advanced. So advanced that logical species could not understand them. The essay spread across the galaxy like fire. A musician from the Harmonium Collective composed a symphony based on Do-hyun's testimony. It was called The Value of Broken Things. It made listeners weep even species that had never wept before. A group of artists created a series of sculptures depicting human acts of kindness. A human feeding a stray animal, a human comforting a crying child, a human giving their last food to a stranger. The sculptures became famous. Museums on 50 worlds requested copies. The humanity effect became a cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, everyone wanted to understand humans. What made them the way they were? How could such a short-lived, fragile species develop such powerful concepts? Were emotions really weakness, or were they something else entirely? Doyun did not know any of this was happening. He went home to Busan with Yira. He went back to his clinic. He continued treating sick animals and volunteering at the shelter. He ate ramyun and watched old movies and fell asleep on his small couch with Bori at his feet. He did not want to be famous. He did not want to be a symbol. He just wanted to live his simple life with the people and animals he loved. But the galaxy had other plans. Messages started arriving, thousands of them, from beings across the galactic community. They wanted to thank him. They wanted to ask questions. They wanted to understand. Some were from species that looked like nightmares. Some were from species that looked like dreams. All of them were reaching out to a small veterinarian who had somehow touched something deep inside them. Doyun did not know how to respond. He was overwhelmed. He could not even read most of the messages. They were in languages he did not understand. Yira helped when she could. She translated messages. She explained customs. She handled the attention that Dohyun did not want. But even Yira could not handle what came next. One night, 3 months after the hearing, Dohyun came home to find Yira sitting on the rooftop. Her patterns were dim. Her shoulders were shaking. She was crying, but not the good kind of crying. The sad kind. "What happened?" Dohyun asked, sitting beside her. Yira held up a small device. On it was a message in Valorian script. "The High Council has made their decision," she said. Her voice was hollow. "I have been officially exiled. I am no longer Valorian. I can never return home. My family has been ordered to forget me. My name has been erased from all records. To my people, I no longer exist." Dohyun felt his heart break. He knew what this meant. Yira had lived for over 200 years. She had a family, a history, a home, and now it was all gone, erased, because she had dared to feel. "I am sorry," he said. The words felt small, useless. "I am so sorry, Yira." "It is not your fault," she said. "I made my choice. I chose to stay. I chose to feel. I knew there would be consequences. But this is too much. You should not have to lose everything just because you fell in." He stopped. Yira looked at him. Her silver eyes were wet with tears. "Just because I fell in what?" she asked quietly. Doyun swallowed. He had been avoiding this, dancing around it, pretending he did not feel what he felt. But tonight, under the stars with Yira broken and lost beside him, he could not pretend anymore. "Just because you fell in love," he said. The words hung in the air. Yira's patterns flickered rapidly. Her breath caught. "Love," she repeated. "That is a human word. I do not know if Valorians can—" "You can," Doyun said. "You already do. I have seen it. The way you care for Bori, the way you play with Nabi, the way you laugh at Chamsai's silly sayings, the way you cry for animals at the clinic, the way you look at me when you think I am not watching." He took her hand. "You have a heart, Yira, a real one, not made of logic or efficiency, a human heart, and it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." Yira stared at him. Her patterns cycled through every color she had ever shown. Gold and pink and blue and purple. Fear and hope and sadness and joy. "I do not know how to be human," she whispered. "I do not know how to have a family without my family. I do not know how to have a home without my home." Doyun smiled gently. He reached over and wiped a tear from her cheek. "You have me," he said. "You have Bori and Nabi and Shamsai. You have Grandma Bongsun, who still gives you free teokbokki every time we visit." He laughed softly. "Family is not about species, Yira. It is about choice. It is about who you love and who loves you back. That is the only thing that matters." Yira looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, she leaned forward and rested her head on his shoulder. "I love you," she said. It was the first time she had said those words. Her voice trembled. Her patterns glowed warm gold. Doyun put his arm around her. He held her close. I love you too, he said. I have loved you since the night at the market, since you stood there looking lost and confused, and I thought, this person needs someone. I can be that someone. They sat together on the rooftop, watching the stars. Below them, the city of Busan glittered with lights. Above them, ships from distant worlds crossed the sky like shooting stars. Bori came out and sat at their feet. Nabi followed, curling up in Yura's lap. From inside, Chamsi called out, Love is patient. Love is kind. Yura laughed, a real laugh. Free and bright and human. She had lost her world. But she had found a new one. And sometimes, Dohyun thought, that was how it worked. You had to lose everything to find what really mattered. You had to break before you could become whole. He held Yura closer and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a galaxy was learning to feel. And it had all started with a knocked-over cart of tteokbokki and a man who believed that broken things deserved love. 1 year later, everything was different, and everything was the same. The rooftop apartment was no longer just an apartment. It had grown. Doyun and Yura had bought the entire building from the old landlord. They turned the ground floor into a clinic, not just for Earth animals, but for creatures from across the galaxy. Word had spread. If something was broken, lost, or unwanted, the human in Busan would take it in. The clinic had a simple name, Second Chance. Inside, it was always busy. A bird from the Stellaris system had broken its wing. A small, furry creature from a world with an unpronounceable name had been abandoned by traders. A plant-like being from the outer rim needed special light that no one else would provide. Do-hyun and Yura treated them all with the same kindness and care. They had help now. 3 volunteers worked at the clinic. One was a young human woman named Ji-woo, who had seen Do-hyun's testimony and traveled across the country to work with him. One was a former soldier named Taiwan, who had lost his arm in an accident and found purpose in helping others who were broken. And one was Mira. Yes, Mira, the same Valorian who had come to take Yura back. She had returned 6 months after the hearing. She had stood in the doorway of the clinic, her patterns dim and uncertain. She had not come to fight. She had come to ask questions. I have been feeling strange, she had said. Empty. Lost. I heard that the human might understand. Do-yun had made her tea. They had talked until sunrise. He had told her about love and broken things and the value of feelings. She had listened. And slowly, piece by piece, she had begun to understand. Now Mira lived in Busan too. Her patterns were no longer cold white. They shifted through colors like a sunset. She was learning to feel. It was hard, painful. Sometimes she cried for no reason. Sometimes she laughed at things that were not funny. Sometimes she sat on the rooftop and stared at the stars and felt homesick for a home she could never return to. But she was alive, really alive. For the first time in her 300 years, the upper floors of the building were for living. Do-yun and Yura had their apartment. Mira had a small room next door. The animals roamed freely between all the spaces. Bori was older now, his muzzle going gray. But he still ran on his 3 legs, still wagged his tail at everyone, still slept at Do-yun's feet every night. Nabi had grown fat and lazy. She spent most of her days in sunny spots, watching the world with her one eye. Chumsai was still speaking old sayings, though Yura had taught him some new phrases. Now he could say, I love you in 3 languages, including Valorian. And there was a new member of the family. Yura had found her 6 months ago. A small kitten, completely deaf, abandoned in a box outside the clinic. It was white and fluffy, with blue eyes that could not hear but saw everything. She is broken, Yura had said, holding the tiny creature. So we keep her, Do-hyun had replied. They named her Hanul. It meant sky in Korean. Because when Yura looked at the little cat, she thought of all the worlds above them, all the beings out there learning to feel. Today was a special day, the first anniversary of the council hearing, the first anniversary of Yura's exile, the first anniversary of the beginning of their real life together. Do-yun had planned a small celebration. Just the family. Good food, some drinks, maybe a movie. Nothing fancy. That was how he liked it. But life had other plans. As the sun set, a visitor arrived at the clinic. She was Valorian, young by their standards, only about 80 years old. Her patterns were unstable, flickering through colors like a broken screen. She looked lost, scared, desperate. "I am looking for the human," she said, "the one who taught the exiled one to feel." Do-yun stepped forward. "I am him. How can I help you?" The young Valorian trembled. I have started to feel. I do not know why. It started after I watched your testimony. Something changed inside me. The doctors say I am sick. They want to fix me. But I do not want to be fixed. I want to understand." Do-yun smiled gently. "What is your name?" "Pella." "Come inside, Pella. Have some tea. You are safe here." That night, they all sat on the rooftop together. Do-yun and Yira, Mira and Pella, Jiwoo and Taiwan, Grandma Bong-sun, who had brought a huge pot of tteokbokki. The animals wandered between them, begging for food and attention. Pella was overwhelmed. She had never seen anything like this. So many different beings, different species, different stories, all together, all caring for each other, all feeling. "Is this what love looks like?" she asked. Yira smiled. Her patterns glowed warm gold. "This is what family looks like, and family is just love with a shape." The stars came out. Ships crossed the sky. Somewhere in the galaxy, more beings were waking up. The humanity effect continued to spread. More questions were asked. More hearts were opened. More broken things were loved. And in a small building in Busan, on a rooftop filled with misfits and strays, Do-yun looked at the family he had built. A three-legged dog, a one-eyed cat, a deaf kitten, a parrot that spoke proverbs, two exiled aliens, a soldier with one arm, a girl who traveled across a country to help, an old woman with the best tteokbokki in the world, and Yira, always Yira. "Do you regret it?" Yira asked him quietly. "Your life is not simple anymore. It is complicated and messy and full of strange creatures." Do-yun laughed. "It was always full of strange creatures. Now there are just more of them." "I am serious," Yira said. Her silver eyes searched his face. "You could have had a normal life, a quiet life. Instead you have this." Do-yun took her hand. Her skin glowed softly in the dark. "I have exactly what I always wanted," he said. "A home full of broken things that I love. That is not complicated. That is the simplest thing in the world." Yira leaned against him. Hanno climbed into her lap. Bori sighed happily at their feet. "I would choose you again," Yira whispered. "Every time. In every universe." Do-yun kissed her forehead. "So would I." Below them, Grandma Bong-sun was packing up her cart, humming an old song. Above them, the galaxy spun on, a little warmer than it had been a year ago. And somewhere across the stars, beings who had never felt anything before were looking up at the same sky and wondering what it meant to love. It had started with a knocked-over cart of tteokbokki. It had grown into something that changed the universe. And it was all because one human believed something very simple: that broken things deserve love, that everyone deserves someone, that home is not a place, it is the people you choose to love and the choice to love them back. Do-hyun looked at his family one more time. His heart was full. His life was complete. Everything he needed was right here, on this small rooftop, under the infinite stars. He smiled. This was home. This was love. This was everything. Humanity. Sometimes it was messy. Sometimes it was painful. Sometimes it did not make sense. But sometimes, just sometimes, it was the most beautiful thing in the galaxy. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. The end.